Good morning. Good morning to everyone here at Westside Unitarian Universalist Church and to those of you who are joining us on YouTube. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Linda Phippen, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers. As a member of the worship committee, I will be assisting with today's service. Whether you are here in the sanctuary or watching on YouTube this morning or at some time in the future, we are glad to have you with us. Westside is a welcoming place for all people of goodwill, whatever their beliefs or chosen spiritual paths. If you're here in person, please join us for coffee after the service, and we will have a chance to talk to you and meet those of you who may be new to Westside. It wouldn't be a Sunday morning at Westside without some announcements. We'll go through them briefly, but they are also in your order of service. Most of them are, there's a couple that aren't. And they will appear on the screen if you are viewing on YouTube. So tomorrow, July 11th, will be the second Monday lunch. It will be at Aubrey's on Cedar Bluff, in Cedar Bluff on Middlebrook Pike. If you're planning to attend, please contact either Judy Burgett or Diane Gray so that they can be sure of have an accurate reservation. I'm going to call your attention to the newsletter from this week in which there is a survey. The survey is to assess the interest of people who are willing to be volunteers to give rides to people in the congregation who are unable to get here on their own. So please check that out in the newsletter. We do have our ongoing religious exploration offerings on Wednesdays and Thursdays. The Wednesday meeting is at 6:30. These are both on Zoom with links in the newsletter. The Wednesday focuses more on theology, although it tends to digress from there and talk about other topics as well. And on Thursday, it's also at 6:30 p.m., and a variety of conversations go on there. We'll say this Thursday is there's a special guest coming from Planned Parenthood, and it will be a person named Francie Hunt who will talk about options for taking action in the community with regard to reproductive rights. Anybody is welcome to join this. As I said, the Zoom link is in the newsletter, and you don't have to have been participating before or sign up or anything like that. The next Earth Church East Tennessee meeting will be on July 31st at 3 p.m. outdoors here at the church, and it's an earth-centered gathering that we hold close to each new moon. Looking a little farther ahead, the Spirit Quest for 2022 will be at the Elkmont Group Camp in the Great Smoky Mountain National Park from August 5th through August 8th. If you're interested in attending that, please let Reverend Carol know. And there is more information and a registration link that is in the newsletter. And that's it for my announcements. Anyone else have any other announcements they would like to make? Okay, for opening music, I'm going to invite the Westside Choir up with Reverend Carol at the piano to sing Keepers of the Earth.
We are blessed by Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Westside. If I haven't had a chance to meet you yet, if you are new here today or on our live stream, I am Reverend Carol Bodeau. I am privileged to serve here as minister. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. Today we're talking about the earth and the privilege we have to be inhabitants of this amazing planet, which is truly incredible. So, as I invite our bowl to sound this morning, what I would like to encourage you to do is think of a place on this earth, a place in nature, a forest, a river, a mountain, an ocean, a lake, a hill, whatever it is for you. Think of a place on the earth that fills your soul, that makes you feel better when you feel sad, that lifts you up or gives you a sense of peace. So as the bowl sounds, simply allow yourself to be aware of how beautiful this earth is.
As Reverend Carroll said, today's service will be focusing on environmental concerns and particularly climate change. All too often in our discussions of climate change, we tend to focus mainly on the environmental effects on humans, with perhaps passing reference to the effects on charismatic animals like polar bears or favored creatures like songbirds and butterflies. Today's chalice lighting words come from John Muir's Wilderness Essays, in which we are reminded that even less attractive members of the Earth's fauna have their place and deserve our consideration when we work to address climate change. Reverend Carroll will light the chalice while I read John Muir's words. He writes, "Nevertheless, again and again, in season and out of season, the question comes up, what are rattlesnakes good for? As if nothing that does not obviously make for the benefit of man had any right to exist, as if our ways were God's ways. Anyhow, they are all, head and tail, good for themselves, and we need not begrudge them their share of life."
I'm going to have you light the other two candles. So, before we move away from lighting of candles and chalices, I'm going to have Linda light these other two candles as I invite you to think about something. So for the first candle, here's what I want you to think about. Think about the thing in nature you hate the most. Perhaps it's mosquitoes, spiders, mudslides. Think about the thing that makes you the most uncomfortable in nature. That first candle is for an awareness that even that is part of the great web that makes it all work. And our second candle this morning is for all those humans who are struggling or suffering as a result of environmental changes and the climate crisis we're going through, particularly people in underrepresented or impoverished communities who are hit the hardest because wealth and privilege insulate us from some of those effects. So let's remember even those creatures and beings from whom we might feel distant. Thank you, Linda. Okay, now today we're going to talk about the environment. And a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about art and action, art and social justice. We were talking about how art can be used to make change in the world. And I will say that of all the authors I can think of who used crazy out there creativity to promote social change, one of my personal favorites is Theodore Seuss Geisel, Dr. Seuss. He's at the top of my list. And I mean, think about a Dr. Seuss book. They're pretty out there, they're pretty creative, right? One of my absolute favorite Dr. Seuss books is the Lorax. People, hopefully you're familiar with the Lorax. The Lorax is a book which is about the destruction of habitat for the making of, does anyone remember what they make in the Lorax? Ah, we forget so soon. We make thneeds, because thneeds are find something that everyone needs. A thneed is a sort of jumpsuit made out of the fluff from Truffula trees. And so the story is about, it's really told from the voice of someone called the Onceler. Once upon a time. The Onceler is the guy who came along and discovered the Truffula stuffula and cut down all the trees to make the thneeds. And now he repents. So he's living in a little hut at the top of a little rack of wood, it looks like. We're not sure if it's a tree or what. And he is passing down to the invisible listener as he tells the story of the Truffula trees. He's telling the story, he's passing down a Truffula seed. And the Lorax, does anybody remember who the Lorax is? He's the guy trying to stop him. The Lorax is a fuzzy little guy who keeps coming to the Onceler and saying, listen, friend, you've got to stop. Most of the plot spins around the Lorax saying to the Onceler, stop it, stop it, stop it. He says, I speak for the trees have no voices. Okay, so you can see why my personal hero here in lots of ways is the Lorax. I speak for the trees have no voices. So the plot of the story spins around the ecological devastation. The Suomi swans, whose rivers become polluted by the plants and who can no longer sing and have to fly away, and all the other creatures that live in the forest that's created by the Truffula trees. The Onceler has saved just one Truffula seed. Just one, which he drops down to the person listening. And the seed actually is the actual point of the story, not the ecological devastation. The seed is the story. He's saying, take the seed and go do something with it. So, our question that we're going to be asking ourselves today is this. What seeds do we hold in our own hands? Not what seeds does the government hold in its hands, Or what mechanisms of control are keeping us from getting more seeds? What seeds do we actually have right now in our hands that we have access to? What do we have access to that can help us save and rebuild and restore our ecology? So today, as we're moving forward, I invite you to be thinking about that. We're going to be talking about the kinds of activities we can do to make a difference now. And I also want to say to those of you who are on our live stream, today at the very end of our service, we're going to be doing our joys and concerns. And so we will be ending our live stream before the joys and concerns. But if you on the live stream have a joy or concern that you want us to know about, please email me. Let me know. We'll be lighting one candle for all of those today, and also I want to know about those concerns. So if you are with us virtually, please don't hesitate to send me that information. All right.
We'll now receive an offering for the support of Westside, its people, its service to the congregation and the community, and all the other things we care for and rely on. Our Share the Plate partner this quarter is Knox Pride, whose mission is to serve as educators, communicators, and representatives of the LGBTQ+ community in Knox County through their community outreach and events. If you're joining us on YouTube and would like to make a donation, you will see a QR code that will take you to the Westside donation site, or you can go to the Westside website and find the donations section.
Okay, have you thought of what your seeds are? Anybody want to volunteer one? Not feeling super inspired yet, huh? Yes, Jerry's got one. Just shout it out.
Walnut seeds, got lots of them.
Walnut seeds, yes. All right. Anybody got any things that you feel like are in your hand that you have access to that can make a difference? Oh, hopefully by the end of this sermon, you will have an idea. So the topic today is loosely the Lorax, but it's really the Green New Deal, okay? So in the 1930s, FDR created a number of public works programs to help restore the economy and sort of the morale of the American people in the face of the Great Depression. And he called that the New Deal. Some of these New Deal programs, as many of you know, had a big impact here in Tennessee. So, for example, one of the New Deal programs was the Tennessee Valley Authority, right? Which we know did all sorts of projects, which have a mixed history, pros and cons around their creation. Also, the CCC, the Civilian Conservation Corps, was created during FDR's New Deal in the 30s. And if you go to any of the state parks or the national park, you see those walls, the bridges, the stone construction, and a lot of the older buildings were created by the CCC. It put people to work, and it did public improvement. So in recent years, really this has been going on for much longer than it's been publicly a big phrase. But for the last probably 20 years, there has been a strong call for a new set of programs similar to Roosevelt's New Deal to address the climate crisis. The term Green New Deal, it probably originated way back before it became popular, but the term became most publicized during the 2019 congressional season when Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez and Senator Ed Markey sponsored a resolution, okay? And this is the name of the resolution. recognizing the duty of the federal government to create a Green New Deal. So it's a comprehensive plan that lays out all sorts of kinds of things that the government should be doing to create a Green New Deal. It didn't make it to the Senate, okay? That specific proposal was never, it didn't make it very far. But essentially, the term has been picked up all over the world, and it refers to a range of movements and resolutions in the US, in other countries, and also in international agencies that aim to create policies, large-scale social and economic reforms to address climate change, to address environmental destruction, and also, and this is important, to address the many linked oppressions that are connected to climate change. So, resource inequality that intersects with environmental change, okay? So, we know that resource inequality is a real thing. Some communities are impacted much more directly, poorer communities, communities of color, than other communities by climate change. So there are all sorts of things that are being proposed by these different Green New Deal propositions. Reducing greenhouse gas emissions, updating infrastructures to deal with environmental changes, and to be more energy efficient. So that can include things like changing bridges, rebuilding electrical grids, things like that. Restoring habitats that have been destroyed, reducing future damage through putting penalties on unsound business practices, which do continuing damage to the planet. And also, many of these proposals include support for sustainable and regenerative agricultural practices. Right now, President Biden and Vice President Harris are offering what they're calling the clean energy revolution, which is basically a less stringent, slightly toned down version of that 2019 Green New Deal proposal. This plan, it offers a whole lot more time to get to the kinds of things that the plan proposed, like 20 more years for a lot of the changes to happen, and significantly lower cost. So it's, Vice President Harris was actually involved and supported the original Green New Deal proposition, but is supporting now this modified version of it. So there are plans all over the world with varying levels of success and approval. Okay, so you can spend all the time you want researching those on the internet and learning about specific proposals for the EU, for other governments in other countries, things the UN is talking about. But we don't actually have time to go through all of that in 15 or 20 minutes. And actually, it doesn't feel very relevant to what we could do today. Because, as we know, things can take a long time to go through the grinding wheels of government. So, if you want to, by all means, research that, and if you think you have ideas that would apply to how we could function as a community, bring them back. But given the urgency of our current environmental and climate situation, we have to ask a couple questions. We know that it's urgent. I think we're pretty much past saying nothing's happening. At least those of us in this room are pretty much past saying it isn't happening, okay? And for the most part, we have a lot of policymakers who say, we know it's happening. Why is it taking so long? Why aren't things happening faster? What can we do to make a difference? So there are some pretty obvious answers to the first question, why is it taking so long and what are the obstacles? And what I'm going to say to you is the obstacles that are true for governmental bodies or institutions or companies are the same darn obstacles to our own action. The same things that will keep a company or a nation from making change are the things that will keep us as individuals from doing it. First, it's money. It's expensive to retool the way we do things. Second, I'm going to call it a political stance, but at the personal level, it might be a personal identity stance. The way we do things, the way our neighbors do things, how we fit in. And third, plain and simple convenience and resistance to change. Now, that's sometimes framed as impracticality. So we want to be sure to make a difference between impractical and uncomfortable. All right? There are definitely tangible obstacles to making some changes happen. But we can make a big difference. Let's ask ourselves, what are the new deals I could make with myself to be more green? What sorts of things do I know I should do, but I don't want to do? Because I don't want to spend the money on the change. I don't want to look weird to my neighbors and feel like I don't fit in by being the one who won't put the pesticides on my front lawn. I don't want the fuss with my homeowners association. I have a story to tell you about that in a minute. Or three, I don't want to deal with the associated inconvenience and hassles. We all have those things. Every one of us has those things. I have a friend who lives in a neighborhood where it's all condominiums and townhomes. And many freestanding homes actually also. But they have a homeowners association. And you gotta have your lawn look the way a lawn is supposed to look. She went to the trouble of having her yard certified by the Audubon Society as a habitat, which you can do, and it gets you out of having to put the pesticides on your lawn and the herbicides on your lawn. However, so she has all these nesting bluebirds in her yard who go next door to eat the worms and bring them to their babies in the boxes in her yard. And about a month ago, all the babies in all the boxes died because somebody had True Green or some other company come to treat their lawn. And the mamas and daddy bluebirds went and they got the worms and the bugs out of those yards and they fed them to the babies. And all the babies died. Something to think about. Rome is burning while Nero fiddles. We need to grab some buckets and start doing some stuff, and it's going to be inconvenient. Let's not wait for our legislators to do things that are within our grasp right now. It's really easy to say, well, they should be doing, they should be. And I'm going to tell you that I consider myself a total environment offender. There are 1,000 things I am still doing that I know I should not be doing. And every day, I try to eliminate one of them and add something in that's an improvement. So here are 10 things that I would include in a personal Green New Deal for myself and for our whole congregation. Okay? Ride sharing on Sunday mornings. Combining trips into town or out adventuring whenever possible. We are a nation addicted to the independence of our automobiles. The automobile is our signature for freedom. By gosh, I can get wherever I want to go because I've got my own car. I cannot tell you how many times a week I think I wish we were doing horses instead. Living out in the country on a farm, coming into town, I cannot count the number of animals I see dead in the road. Every day, and it breaks my heart every day. So a little thing I can do is leave 20 minutes earlier so I can drive slower so I don't hit the turtle, so I see it. In a week, I probably see 50 dead animals on my commutes. That's a lot of animals that are being killed so we can get where we want to go fast. In town, you don't see it as much because they're already gone. Number 2, shop locally. Buy things, especially food, that didn't have to travel across the planet to get to you. If your food is coming from China, there's a problem. That's a problem. I believe it was Wendell Berry, maybe Alan Savory, who said, there became a problem when we started thinking our food was somebody else's business. When we started thinking that my food was somebody else's job and I had no responsibility for knowing where my food comes from, that's a problem right there. Know where your food comes from. Number 3, know where everything else you get comes from. Buy sustainably produced products whenever possible. And that means number 4, read your labels. Know how your food was grown, where your shoes were made, what forest, this is a big one. Know what forests were cut down to make your toilet paper. I hate to say it, it's sort of crass, but every time you go the go, enjoy the go, whatever that ad is, most of us are destroying virgin old-growth boreal forests in Canada. Because soft toilet paper is made by cutting down virgin old-growth trees. So, the Canadian Indigenous peoples communities are fighting hard to save the boreal forests, which are an important part of our ecosystem for our air and our water in all of North America, right? The major toilet paper producers use exclusively virgin old-growth trees to make their products. Because we like soft TP. There are other options out there, and I'm going to name some companies. As of 2020, Procter & Gamble, Kimberly-Clark, and Georgia-Pacific were the worst offenders. Finding out the sourcing of their stuff right now is really hard. They're super coy about it, okay? But the Native people in Canada are saying they are cutting down our forests at an astronomical rate. So when we are like, oh my gosh, they're cutting down the Amazon rainforest, look in your linen closet. Buy toilet paper that was made sustainably. That's on the top of my list. I haven't done it yet. I'm still using up pandemic panic toilet paper. But when it's gone, I'm buying something that was sourced sustainably and did not involve destroying ancient ecosystems. Okay, number 5. This one's trickier. Eliminate single-use plastic from your life. That means your water bottles, drink bottles, even though they're recycled, recycling is a dodgy thing. They say it's getting recycled, but you don't actually know where it's actually going. A lot of it's going to another country, and then they're taking it out in the ocean and dropping it. So just stop using it. You know you can actually get sustainably made produce bags to take to the grocery store. Not just your grocery bag that you carry it all home in, but you can actually go into the produce section with a sustainably used bag. That's awesome. Okay. Shop for clothing by need, not I'm feeling low, I should probably cheer myself up with a fancy new thing. Okay, and also know where your clothing comes from. Better yet, shop at resale and consignment stores whenever possible, and not just for clothing. How many pumpkin cookie jars and ceramic Santas does one nation actually need? All you have to do, you go into a big store, and you're like, I know there are 5,000 of those somewhere in this state that are in perfectly good condition that somebody just got rid of out of their house. We don't need to have all this stuff. We just don't. So shop resale. All right. Number 8, this one's going to hit hard for some of us. Practice staycations more than awaycations. There's a lot right here in East Tennessee that's worth exploring, and saves on fossil fuels and fast food and all the things, all the packaging and all the products and all the stuff that it takes to go to the beach, to Disney. All right? I'm naming some names here, some things that we love, folks. Number 9, wear sweaters in the winter. Turn the thermostat down. That one's a little easier. Number 10, this is for us as a community. We could recommit to being a green sanctuary congregation. We had a lot of support for that in theory and in voice, but it never made it out of email stage into committee. Okay? And I want to be clear and compassionate. This is a process. This is a journey. I don't mean to be making us all feel bad, but we all think the power is out there in somebody else's hands, and we're the ones buying the products. We're the ones taking the trips. We're the ones doing the things that fuel the economy that's destroying the earth. We actually have the power. So for about 4 years, I was completely reliant on plastic yogurt containers from California because it was the only way I knew how to get goat milk yogurt, because I can't do cow milk. And there was a company in California who I give incredible gratitude to that was making goat milk yogurt and sending it here. And so for a few years, I bought those containers, all the while thinking, I need a goat. I need a goat. Many of you heard me say, I need a goat, right? I found the solution. Finally, I found a local farm with a goat. And now I'm able to get my goat milk. I bought myself an Instant Pot. I make my own yogurt. The one container that the goat milk comes in is totally reusable on the farm. I make my yogurt, I put it in glass jars, which I can wash and reuse and wash and reuse and wash and reuse. The containers do not have to travel from California to get to me. They do not have to be in warehouses. They don't have to have refrigeration traveling cross country. I don't have piles of plastic containers. So, here's the thing. Money. The truth of the matter is, for the vast majority of UUs, we actually have the luxury of being able to afford to do some things more environmentally sound. We actually do. We have the resources, most of us. Number 2, looking weird to our neighbors. What would happen if you said, I'm not doing it. I am not putting Roundup on my yard? And let's be honest, we have the attitude that the environment matters, but just this once, we'll just go ahead and use the Roundup. I don't know if that's living our values. Number 3 is the biggie, convenience. It is super inconvenient to make my own yogurt when I would really just rather sit and read a book. It is inconvenient to coordinate rides. It is inconvenient to go to 3 different used clothing stores instead of just like, I want that new thing that was made in China or wherever. We do have a global economy, and that's important. So there's always a balancing act here. There's always a balancing act. But what if we all just chose 2 or 3 things on this list? 2 or 3. And what if you could convince everyone in your family and your friends and neighbors, just do 2 or 3? They say that every minister has just one sermon, and they just give it over and over and over and over again. And I would say that if I have one sermon that I give over and over again, it's that it is within you, not outside of you. In this time on this planet, when we are, for the most part, feeling so powerless and disempowered and feeling like all the forces out there are taking things away and forcing us to do things we don't want to do, and we're feeling disempowered, we're actually not. There are always things we have it in our power to do that matter. So, be kind to yourself, but listen to the Onceler. What the Onceler says to that little person, whoever they are, that the Onceler is handing the seed to, the Onceler says this: unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to get better. It's not. We have to care enough to overcome those hurdles in ourselves. Cost, time, effort, convenience, habit, where we put our attention and our preferences. So, let's make some Green New Deals with ourselves. If you can leave here with just one idea of one thing that you're ready to do, make a Green New Deal with yourself. For me, it's the toilet paper. Right? For me, it's the toilet paper. When the pandemic paper is gone, I'm switching to renewable, because boreal forests matter. And what's a little bit rough on me might be a little bit more gentle on the planet. So I will look forward to hearing your thoughts, your ideas, what's possible, what you think is possible for you to do. Let's do it in a sense of empowerment. We're going to be singing, the choir is going to sing one more song for us. It's Blue Boat Home, which is all about us being on this ship planet, the Earth, together, living together on this beautiful green, blue boat that we inhabit. So to those of you who are with us on our live stream, thank you for being with us today. As I said before, if you have a joy or a concern that you'd like to share, or even an idea for a Green New Deal you'd like to make or that we might make together, please send me an email. Our live stream is ending now as we begin a time of joys and concerns here in the congregation. So one of the